Now, y'all look money hungry, and that's good. Anybody tells you money's the root of all evil doesn't have any. They say money can't buy happiness. Look at the smile on my face. Ear to ear, baby.
Welcome to Money Unplugged. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for being here. Today on the show, I talk with Ross Anderson. He's a certified financial planner, the co-founder of Craftwork Capital, and co-host of the weekly podcast, Check Your Balances, which is a show I have been listening to since it launched 5 years ago. And this was a great conversation for a few reasons. One of which is we went kind of deep on what happens when couples have different money habits and different money goals. And if you're someone like Ross, whose job is to help bridge those differences, how do you approach that challenge? What happens when you stop being a financial planner and you suddenly have to become a marriage counselor? We talked about that. We also talked about music during the speed round because for years, Ross has had a side business as a DJ for events and weddings, and I couldn't let the opportunity pass. I had to get his thoughts on the best song about money. So let's get into it with Ross Anderson. You grew up in Virginia.
I did. Yeah, Northern Virginia native.
What did your parents do?
My parents own a hair salon, still to this day. They're both hairdressers. They met in a salon and then opened their own place a little more than 40 years ago.
What's the earliest memory you have when it comes to money?
So a lot of my memories from money come through stories that have been told about me at this point. And so I don't know that I remember it as much as now I tell the story through how this is how I think about the youth. And didn't talk much about money growing up. It was pretty hush-hush. That wasn't something that we talked about. But I apparently used to just ask for stuff constantly. We'd be in a store. My mom would take me somewhere. I'm always asking for stuff. And my mom's line would be, well, we don't have money for that right now. And apparently we were at some department store and she goes to buy something after having told me, well, we don't have money for that right now. And in the era of writing a check, the clerk is looking at her like, are you writing me a bad check? Because I go, Mom, I thought you said we don't have money for that right now. And so that story has always stuck with me, that then she reframed as, well, we're choosing not to spend money on that right now, because she had to correct my understanding of what we're doing. It's not that we don't have money, but we're going to choose not to spend it.
So I am simultaneously not surprised that money was not really discussed in the home, because it rarely is. It's the exception, not the rule. But I am a little surprised from this standpoint that your parents owned a shop together. Mm-hmm. And I would assume, incorrectly as it turns out, that if they're working together, they own a shop together, this business together, that some of that conversation just spills out into the home and you're able to pick up on that. But it sounds like, no, not really. They kept that confined to the salon.
Well, I think I heard a lot about their business anecdotally. And I think that I ended up understanding it and learning things about what they did and the things that my dad would think about and stuff that he would be worried about. And so, yes, I gathered a lot, but it was never that we sat down and they tried to teach me, well, this is how the money works. It was always just kind of hearing him talk about what they were going through, whether it was staffing or if they were busy or if they were slow or, whatever was happening. I think I took a lot from it. So certainly I don't feel like I didn't learn from them, because I think I learned a ton from them. Watching them be business owners was really informative for me. And I think partially why I wanted to become a business owner myself. And so I really appreciated watching them be entrepreneurs, but I don't think that it was ever taught to us, well, this is how the money works.
At a certain age, did they put you to work in the salon, or was your first job as a kid something else?
It was something else. One time, and this is funny because I don't think I had any understanding of what I was really doing. My dad had an accounting software and he was working with this CPA, an accountant, but they had to do all the books, right? And so he basically had me going through and trying to categorize the bookkeeping entries on some of the salon stuff. So he paid me to kind of go through and categorize things. I don't remember what age that was. That was pretty early on, I think. But then my first job was scooping ice cream. I worked in a Baskin Robbins.
Nice.
That's a fun first job. That's a very good first job. You learn a lot from that too.
What did you learn?
I mean, a little bit of everything. I mean, first of all, being in an ice cream store when it gets busy in the summertime, right? I mean, your sense of just hustle of, yeah, we're going to work through this, and the job isn't done until it's done. I mean, you're not looking at the clock going, when do I take my 15-minute break? I mean, you're looking at a line of 60 kids standing in line going, who's next, right? And so I definitely think there was like some work ethic that came from that. And then, yeah, you'd see it be slow, and you're standing around in the winter. Nobody's coming to get ice cream. And you have minimal staff at that point, so completely different feel. And you're like, all right, well, maybe I'll taste Rocky Road again. But yeah, you learn a lot kind of just sitting in that environment and watching how that operated. And they ended up closing that store a little after I turned 16 because I had just gotten another job, but I was still kind of there. And it worked out nicely that, but yeah, at 14 years old, I was scooping ice cream. Had a great time.
I'm glad you used the word hustle, because that's as a customer, that's how I think about those businesses, that I don't mind standing in line as long as the people who are working are hustling. Like if I see the hustle, I'm like, that's fine. They're working as hard as they can. It's great. Where I get a little upset is where I'm standing in line and it just seems like the people behind the counter are just taking their sweet time.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I have such an inherent, and maybe that's just like the people pleaser side of me, but I cannot stand around idly while people are waiting for what I could offer them. Like that to me just has never made any sense.
Well, and it's probably also the entrepreneurship you pick up from your parents.
Yeah, I always wanted to work hard. And I mean, that kind of relays back to that first story of apparently I used to just ask for stuff. We got to that point as a teenager where I was still doing that. And I was like, hey, can I get a Xbox or, whatever it was that I was asking for at the time. And they were kind of like, well, when you start working, you'll be able to have money and buy your own stuff. And I was like, great, let's do that. How can I get started? Let's roll. And I mean, like truly, like as soon as I turned 14 and could get a work permit, I was like, let's rock and roll, because turns out I want stuff. Let's do it.
Let's move on to college. You went to Christopher Newport University.
I did.
Finance major, which I am assuming you decided that before you got there. Am I wrong?
You are wrong. I actually changed into finance. I started as a marketing major, did an internship at Smithfield Foods. They were kind to me at Smithfield, but it was the worst job I've ever had. I was so out of water. These weren't my people. It didn't work the way I wanted to work. These were butts in chairs at 8 a.m. sort of folks. And all of that like hustle and energy that you get from working in like food service or retail or, whatever, there was none of that, right? This is like the slowest office environment I've ever been in. My summer job was to catalog coupons of like when competitors ran ads for every competitor that they like, everything they competed in. So I'm looking at like grocery store spiral ham coupons for weeks on end. I'm miserable. And I changed majors like before the end of the internship. I was like, this is not it. I thought marketing was like, I'm going to go be Don Draper. I'm going to go have a lot of cool ideas. I'm going to say cool things to people. Turns out that wasn't the job, at least not the one that I got. And I was like, this is horrible. And I had just taken my first finance class and loved it. So it was both of those things together of having a bad internship or at least one that I didn't enjoy, and getting into finance. But I didn't show up with any knowledge of finance or any desire to be in that field. I kind of found it while I was in school.
Do you remember anything about that first class that made the light bulb go off, that you just thought, oh, wait a minute, this could be a thing?
I have this question all the time of, do you like the things that you're good at, or do you get good at the things that you like? And to me, this was a little bit of I liked the thing because I thought I was good at it. It made sense to me. Time value of money stuff, which is really what entry to finance is. My brain quickly got it and liked it and could do the math and found it interesting. And so I think that aptitude developed the fondness for it. And that's really probably a through line for me throughout my life of I like the things that I'm good at and I want to spend as much time doing them as possible. The things that I feel incompetent at, I don't want to spend time doing it. And I think it was more that I was good, and then that led to me enjoying it.
So you are another person on this show that I get to ask this question of, because, and in your case, you're 1 year out of college, if I'm doing the math correctly. In 2008, you're working at a financial firm, and the great financial crisis hits. What do you remember about their time? Was there panic in the office? Do you remember anything about the mood, either with clients or just with your coworkers?
It was hectic. And to give you very specifics, I started in production. By the time I finished, I was still working in restaurants, like right as I graduated. I kind of got hired. My first gig was at a company called Ameriprise. And then you go through this like licensing exercise. And so I got fully licensed and kind of like installed in the office in June of 2008. So it was not good timing. And there were a lot of things that I remember about that era. What they were trying to teach us were scripts that you say to people. They were not trying to teach us finance. It was like, when you sit down, this is what you say. Ameriprise, I kind of came to learn later, had just kind of gone through this big split where all of the experienced people basically packed up and left and went to their independent channel. And so I was kind of left with the people that stayed in the employee channel, either because they weren't senior enough or whatever was going on at the time. And it was very scary for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I felt like there was no amount of work that made it feel good, right? It wasn't like an effort problem. It was I don't know what to do problem. What they were trying to teach me didn't seem to be working. And then they ran out of money for their marketing program anyway. And they were like, yeah, we're going to shut that down. You can stay here as long as you hit your sales benchmarks. If you stop hitting them, you're going to be out on your butt, but we're not going to give you any help. So they killed all of our budget for that stuff. None of that had to do with the market. The market itself, it was noise. It was scary. It was a lot of things going on. But really the way it felt was that was the reason nobody wanted to talk. Right? You'd be reaching out to people going, I'd like to talk to you about your finances. First of all, I didn't know anything, so they were correct not to talk to me. It was a very, very bad time to enter the business. And I still remember the pitch meeting, right? When you join this company, they'd sit you down and say, listen, if you're average at this, your first year here, you're going to make 60 grand. If you're stellar, you'll make 100. If you're kind of a scrub, you'll make at least 40. And I'm going, well, I've never been super average. I've always been on the upper end of average, at least. Let's trying to be modest. I was like, I can be talented. I'm going to be good at this. And I mean, I think I made like $25,000 in my first year. I mean, I just made horrifically bad money. And it caused all sorts of problems that came after that. But a lot of what it felt like to me was just absolute spinning my wheels because I wasn't good enough at or like well qualified to do the thing that I was being told to do, even though I was quote unquote licensed. And so I've often talked about those securities licenses. It's kind of like getting a license for a car. It doesn't mean you're good at driving. It just means you're allowed to get behind the wheel.
So at any point, I mean, that's not a great experience.
It's horrible.
It goes without saying.
Yeah.
It's not a great work experience. And the backdrop, and this is something that, anytime I'm talking particularly to younger investors, college students, that sort of thing, one of the things I try to emphasize without being Dr. Doom, I try and emphasize it's hard to overstate how scary it was because it wasn't just one part of the market was crashing. It wasn't just the dot-com bubble, which was bad in its own way. But 2008, it was the entire U.S. and global economy. So the fear was real and very high.
Yes.
So with that as the backdrop and your work experience not being stellar, at any point do you think to yourself, maybe I should do something else altogether in the finance space?
100%. So first of all, I was terrified. I was uncomfortable. And what I ended up doing and has kind of become the formula that I would teach anybody to follow for career advice is go find somebody that can do this and work for anything until you learn what they're doing and why it works. Like that knowledge ended up being what I needed. Was just being thrown in the water and asked to swim. It was like, well, yeah, I'm trying to swim, but I don't know how to swim. And I wasn't going to learn that way. And so I had to go still not make great money, but go support an advisor that was actually functioning and active. And so it took a little while to find that fit, but that was the thing that I did because there was no shot that I was going to stay in the industry without that knowledge because I was just spinning my wheels. So yes, I had all sorts of thoughts, right? Should I do something else? Should I go back to restaurants? Like, what else could I do? Am I qualified to do anything? Right. I mean, all the things that I shouldn't have been that scared about at 23, because you can change directions 10 times after that if you need to. I had a lot of fear there, but yes, I completely thought I had screwed up and I'd gone the wrong direction, and I just didn't know where else to go. But I did find, once I could kind of settle in and see somebody that was actually operating, that I settled down, got way more comfortable, and then developed all the, whatever talent I needed behind that.
Before we go to the speed round, I want to ask you about something that Jesse Kramer and I talked about a few weeks ago when he was on the show. And obviously, I'm not asking you to divulge anything about the work that you do with your clients. But what Jesse and I talked a little bit about was just sort of the phenomenon of working with married couples. And it's almost always the case that one of them, usually the man, is more invested in the finances, the investing, more interested in it, that sort of thing. I'm wondering, do you ever find yourself in a situation where the two people that you're working with are so far apart in terms of being on the same page that, you're no longer a financial planner, you're almost more in the mode of being a marriage counselor? I mean, that feels like an overstatement, but I do wonder sort of what the outer limits of those situations look like for someone who has a financial planning business like you do.
First of all, it comes up all the time. And whether it's minor understandings or sometimes you're being put in a position almost intentionally, and there's code words you can hear for that. So you'll go through an interview with somebody, for example. What? Yeah. So it'll go, well, can you talk to us about budgeting? That's actually a really triggery code word, which is normally, can you tell my spouse to quit spending so much money? Right. That's normally what they're getting ready to ask me. And so when people go, well, can you talk to us about budgeting? I give my little framework on budgeting, which is absolutely, we're going to talk about what you spend. We're going to talk about what you should be saving, which is just an inverse of your spending, right? Those are just the inverse of each other. And we're going to talk about what path that leads you on. I don't care what you spend your money on, right? If you've decided that you're saving enough or that you need to spend this money, I'm not going to look at it on a category by category basis and tell you, well, your food budget is overblown and your travel budget is underweight, because that's just coming down to your values. And so, yes, I do talk to people about budgeting. I think that is a valuable part of the planning process, but that is absolutely a code word for you're trying to put me potentially in the middle of a situation with a spouse that you're having trouble having the conversation. Sometimes you'll have an aggressive saver partnered with an aggressive spender, and they're fighting with each other based on that. And it's not that either of them is right or wrong, but that just having that tension there, it can come out in the financial planning meetings of going, well, look, we got to pick what's important here. So yeah, deciding on what the goals are is really the first part of the process. And sometimes we're not in alignment there, right? It's hard to plan for your finances if we can't decide on what the goal is. If the goal for one person is, well, I want to be able to spend more money guilt-free, and the other person is, well, I want to be able to retire at 52, and we can't be in alignment there. So those are tough situations. Having the discussion and trying to lead them to a place, which I'm sure is some version of what therapists are doing as well, but being really clear about what I'm going to decide and what I'm not going to help them decide, where I'm going to show you what paths are available. If you do X, Y, and Z, I believe these are the knock-on effects, is a healthy discussion that I can have. Saying, well, I think you should stop spending so much money so that you guys can be retired at 52 is me inserting myself into the situation in a place where I'm uncomfortable. And so I just think planning in general is, I'm going to show you what the paths look like so that you can be informed to take one. That's really what I think the job should be. I'm going to teach you what the options are, what are the knock-on effects, what are the things around the corner that you may see or not see, so that you can feel good about the decision that you're going to make, not that I'm ever going to make it for you. And so that's how I try to at least pull myself back out of that situation where I'm not becoming the arbiter. I don't want to be the one to make any decisions. I just want to show people what the truth is and let them pick a path, because that's not where I think my role really lies.
Wait, do you get that sometimes where like someone is like, hey, break the tie, like you're going to be the deciding vote?
The questions lean that way. I don't know that anybody said it that explicitly, but yes, I think they lean that way. Or, can you tell us that this is a bad idea? And it's like, no, it's not a bad idea. It's just, this is what happens if you do it.
I don't mean to brag, but this summer, it is a fact that I have been getting more compliments on my grilling. And I am giving almost all of the credit to the fact that I use rubs and seasonings from Dizzy Pig Barbecue. It's pretty simple. Use better seasonings, you get better tasting food. And Dizzy Pig is my go-to source. They make incredible blends for whatever you're cooking. Chicken, steak, pork, seafood, veggies. And if you like a little bit of heat or a lot of heat, trust me, they have got something you're gonna love. I love their Crossroads Barbecue Rub. I love that they offer a sampler 5-pack, so you can pick 5 different types of rubs and seasoning blends, and you get sample packets, enough to try on a few different meals. Honestly, I think it's my favorite option that Dizzy Pig offers. Stock up now, go to dizzypigbbq.com, use the promo code MONEY, and you'll get 10% off your order. I'm going to do it once I'm done with this episode because I am almost out of their glazed and infused sauce, and I need more. It's too good. Go to dizzypigbbq.com, use the promo code MONEY for 10% off, and get your grill going. All right, let's get back to Ross. Let's go to the speed round. What is a thing you have bought that makes you happy?
I see. I was scared of doing your show, Chris, because I've listened to it many times, and every time I listen to you do this part, my mind spins. I'm like, well, what would my answer be? And I struggle with it. I think I value experiences more than anything else. Just last night, we were talking just before we rolled. Went with my family to a baseball game because I've got some family in town. I love that. So if I can take people out and create a memory and do something fun, that's always going to be the top of my list. So whether it's a concert or something like that, those are normally the things that make me happiest.
Have you ever made a purchase in your adult life that you regret and sometimes you find yourself still thinking about it?
Oh, tons of them. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So everybody's happiest investment is their house. And I've bought homes that I regret. And really, it was more so how much work I put into it for a home that I ended up not keeping as long as I thought I would. And yeah, absolutely. But not only lost money, even though it looked like on paper we probably made money, but did not. And yeah, I'm very, very cautious on treating a home like an investment. I think it's an asset. I think it gives you a place to live. I think it gives you security in some cases. But I do not treat homes as the greatest investment in the world. And that is informed by my own experience.
What's the last thing you splurged on just for yourself, not your family or anyone else?
I bought myself, this is probably like 6-7 weeks ago now. I bought myself a nice leather travel bag. I had been using a duffel bag going back to the stories of my first like real job. I was using a duffel bag that I'd gotten for free working at Ameriprise in probably 2008, 2009.
You had a branded duffel bag.
I did. It was a RiverSource branded duffel bag that I was still using. And first of all, credit to them. It was a great bag. It lasted almost 20 years and it was starting to fall apart. And I said I should travel like somebody that's got their stuff together, and bought myself a nice leather bag.
Nice. What is one thing about money you wish you knew earlier in life?
I feel like I have learned more from the mistake, right? I mean, I think ultimately that experience and doing the wrong thing teaches you so much. I was grateful that I made some pretty big mistakes early and got them corrected in my mindset, which is really the through line to what we've been talking about is I wanted to earn money so that I could buy things. That was where I started. And going through that early career, it was so challenging. I ended up getting myself into debt and getting into a lot of trouble and then having to unwind it, that I think about it very differently. I think about wealth as security now. I think about it as freedom. I think about it, in the lens of, do you have autonomy or do you have to keep doing what other people think you should be doing? And so it took me a long time to kind of figure that out and get sorted out, that the power of money was not so that I could just like have stuff, that it was so that I could build security for myself. And if I had learned that faster, I would have done some things differently, but glad I figured it out.
It is such a good feeling though, when you finally get out of debt.
It was huge. And I have a phobia of it, and genuinely to this day, and thankfully I'm not, on the cusp of being in a lot of debt today. That is still what drives me, is that fear, the shame that I felt in those moments. Like that is still very much in me, and I don't want to lose it. Honestly, I don't want to operate from a position of scared. I don't think that's the case, but that is still what drives me today.
What is a charitable cause that you like to support?
One that you may be familiar with, being in Alexandria, is called Together We Bake. Wonderful organization. They do a lot of work really on workforce development for women that have gone through really tough situations. And they make truly incredible cookies and granola and really great products. And so for anybody that has not tried them, even if you are just a fan of a good cookie, order some Together We Bake cookies. But everything that they do is to support women going through their program, learning how to either be on the business side or the production side of making their product. And I love them, love supporting them, and hope they continue to do great.
They do great work. I cannot overstate how good the cookies are. I think the first time I bought them, I don't remember where in Alexandria I was, but it was whatever. And it was, on a display, and it was, it's this organization. And I was like, that's a good cause. Yes, it's a good cause. Also, it's cookies. Sure, I'll buy these to support these this good cause. And then I think half of them were gone before I got home.
They're crazy good. They are genuinely crazy good. Together We Bake cookies are special. And you feel really good about supporting them. So, or at least I do. Do you have a favorite movie or TV series that has money as a through line? I love every single one of them. Right. All of the, I love the ones that are gritty and gross. I love the ones that are funny. So Boiler Room has long been my favorite finance movie. If I was showing it to somebody that wasn't into finance, I think The Big Short is probably the best entertainment value one. I love The Pursuit of Happiness because it's the only one that shows the financial industry not as pure scumbags. It shows it as a path to success. And Will Smith's character is hey, this is a journey you can go on if you work really hard. Billions was great. I love all of them. To pick a favorite, I think the intensity, and I hate picking this one, but I think the intensity of Margin Call, I think that's an underrated movie in finance. And I think it's done so well and acted so brilliantly. And I do think that that's probably what it felt like inside of a big investment bank or bond house, or kind of how they end up showing it. So I think that's probably the most accurate of all of them. So I'm going to call that as my favorite for that reason, but I really do love them all. I do think Margin Call is the most under-discussed. The Big Short gets all the flowers, and it should, because it's a great movie. Great film. And teaches you a lot. Yeah. Yes. Margin Call is everything you said. It's just, in a 24-hour period, just an amazing story. Because of your side hustle in the world of music, I am going to ask you the question that I asked Bob Pisani last year when he was on the show. What's the best song about money? Ooh. It's not a fair question, and there are so many to choose from. Music's so mood for me. I always think, am I trying to get myself hyped up? Am I trying to calm myself back down? And so I think there's songs about money that do both, right? And so when I'm trying to calm myself down, I think this is actually the song I talked about, was a Zac Brown song called Homegrown, right? Which is just about being at peace with what you have. And I'm going to call that my favorite, because even though it's not a song really about money, I think if you can find peace with wherever you are, that's the key, right? Is use the money as a tool. I've got no issue with people wanting and trying to build wealth. I think security is wonderful. I think ambition is wonderful in the right context and in the right measure. But I do love that song, and it makes me think about what I want my money to do for me. So I'm going to use that as my example.
Nice. It did occur to me that, if you think about songs as having a setting, sometimes the setting is a relationship. Sometimes the setting is in the club. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that pretty much every song that is set in the club, a through line of that song is spending money, just freely spending money.
For sure. There's a lot of club music because it's about showing off, right? And
having a good time.
And a lot of hip hop in general, right, started from rap battles. You'd have a DJ in the middle and you'd have MCs and they would basically battle, and it was about, could you be funny? Are you insulting the other guy? Am I more popular than you? Right. And so it started from a lot of that flexing. And then, I think clubs love that environment, right? That's how they make all their money, is people doing bottle service and spending literal thousands of dollars for a night out drinking. I mean, there's no way it's worth it except that you get to show off and be the guy that bought the thing, and they bring it over with the sparkler. And it's a crazy culture, but it's really a lot about showing off and telling people that you made it in the loudest way possible. So there's a lot of music that supports that, and there's a lot of good club songs about money. Very few of them are going to help you be any better with it, for what it's worth. So if you're listening to that music,
right,
that's like entertainment, but also like, hey kids, don't do that. That's not what you should be doing with your money.
We're not pulling financial literacy lessons per se out of songs like that.
Correct.
Last thing is a penny for your thoughts, and this is just any bit of wisdom that you picked up along the way that you want to share with people who are listening. And it doesn't have to be about money. It can be about anything. I'm
going to stay on the money topic just because that's where my brain has been for our show. It's a tool, not a treasure, right? If it's enabling you to have the life that you want, then you're doing the right thing with it. And really, the thing that I've come to believe more than anything is it's about finding balance. It's not about starving yourself so that you can have all this stuff later. It's not about spending all this money now because tomorrow might not be there. It's about finding that delicate balance of, you've got to enjoy your life today. This is not a waiting game of someday you'll get to be happy. That's not what we're doing. It shouldn't be what we're doing. And at the same time, preparing for the future is important. And finding that balance has been important to me, and I hope other people are finding it as well.
I feel like this conversation might hit close to home with a lot of people, particularly people who are married or in a serious relationship. So by all means, go ahead and share this episode with anyone you think might benefit from hearing it. Oh, and if you're like me and you suddenly have a hankering for delicious cookies, I put a link to Together We Bake in the episode description. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.